think about how to get you there. Because I think sometimes we're so focused on what I need to do next, and maybe we could take a step back and just look at the broader picture. It will always adjust. Nothing is linear in your educational journey, right? You might take a detour, you might do something different, check out a different class or skill, and that's okay, but that's part of the process of learning. So here are some, again, we can share this information with you after, but if you're someone, once it identifies your personality, we all have different personalities. Some of us are social, right? That might mean maybe you're interested in counseling, you're interested in nursing of some sort, working with people. Maybe some of you are investigative. You like to solve problems. You like to get to the root of something. So maybe medicine might be something. Psychology might be a good interest field. Others of you might be conventional. You know 2 + 2 = 4, and that's how you like to operate, right? So maybe you're someone who would be more interested in accounting, banking, administration, things like that. So all of you have different personalities, and that's great, right? But this is why some of these different assessments can help you understand who you are and kind of what interests might be of interest to you. Any questions about this? Yes. You could say CF counselor, since I guess you heard it from me. Cool. So to answer your question, though, you don't have to know. These things can help you, but will evolve. Okay? Cool. Awesome. All right. Moving on here. Okay, question for my middle school students. Do grades and extracurriculars in middle school count towards your college application? Yes. Okay. Okay, good answer. Hang on to that one. Yes. In the pink.
My sister told me when she applied for college that you can't put everything that you learned in middle school, but you could say that you started it in middle school, that you finished it in high school.
Okay, great answer. I saw one more hand.
When you do or in middle school, you do
Okay, perfect. So all 3 of you actually have the right answer in a different shape or form. So the short answer is, what you do in middle school right now, is it going to go on your application, your college application? Short answer is no. But all 3 of you in some form said that what you do now kind of develops your interests. And then once you get to high school, you can really be very thoughtful about how you spend your time. Oftentimes I see a lot of kids, once they get to high school, they start to explore interests. The problem is, you really only have 1 year. 9th grade is the year to explore if you're starting that late. What I tell my middle school students, though, is start to explore now, so when you get to high school, you're intentional where you're spending your time. Your time is limited, right? And you want to make the most of it. So now is a good time for parents to help your kids think, okay, what do you like, what you don't like, right? If somebody likes soccer, great. If they don't like soccer and you're dragging them every weekend to go play, maybe stop, find something different, right? So this is a good time to do that now. Trial and error, you could say. All right. Okay, so what do colleges care about? I like to call it the 4 A's just to keep it simple. We say academics, activities, awards, and autobiography. So what does all of that mean? Academics is what you think. Good grades, taking challenging courses, having, high ranking, if you will, meaning you're doing very, very well. Activities, this is the other part that weighs very, very heavily, especially now for colleges, is how do you spend your time outside the classroom? That's how I want you to think about an extracurricular. So it's anything you're doing outside the classroom. So leadership, community service, you're working, maybe you help take care of a sick grandparent, right? These are all extracurriculars that you want to write down the minute you get into 9th grade. Awards, so this is, if you get a, distinguished award at the school, or you do something extracurricular recognition, all those awards count because on the application, you will have the ability to input that information. And your autobiography, which is probably one of the most important pieces, is who are you, right? This is where you have to write a personal statement for some schools. They want to understand, how did you grow? What have you learned about yourself, about others, right? Are you a resilient person if you were met with some challenges, right? These are all the things that we are curious to know. Because at a high level, keep in mind, Colleges really only spend a couple of minutes on your application, but you spend a lot of time building that, right? So be very, very methodical about what you put there to make sure you stand out to them, okay? Any questions? Okay, good. All right, so now I'm gonna kind of talk more about what you all can do now. So this is a high level, this is how we're gonna get there. Let's get down to where you are now. So, question for you kids, are you nervous about applying for college? Yes. Yeah, okay, good, that's fair. Anybody else? Yes? No, okay, good. All right, yes. You in the pink and then you in the green. Not really? Good. Okay, okay, yes. That's okay too. Everybody has their own path. Everybody has their own path, right? But so the good news is if you are nervous, you don't need to be. If you aren't, that's good. But I want to talk about what you can do now, right? So number one, build relationships with your teachers. What do I mean by this? The one thing you want to think about when you think about your teachers is, yes, sometimes they are the key to making sure you get good grades. They have the ability to say whether you're a good student, a bad student, right? That is their role as a teacher and to teach you as well. But the biggest thing is we want you to develop good relationships with them. Yes? Probably if you're not paying attention. I think that's fair, yeah? Right, it's a distraction, the phone. Okay, I have a question for you guys. Students who have positive relationships with their teachers are what % more likely to participate actively in class and demonstrate higher engagement levels? Okay, yes, you. 10%, okay. Yeah, you. See? 80%, okay, yes. 80. 80. 80. 50. 50. Okay, so I got a range of answers here, which is good. So the biggest thing, though, is this a positive thing or a negative thing? Positive, right? So this is a positive thing to engage and have good relationships with your teachers. So you participate more. It's 50% more likely. So most of you, actually a few of you only got it right. Most of you actually overestimated that, which is fine. But the reality is 50% more likely to participate actively in class and have higher engagement. What do you think that means for the teachers when you're actively participating and have higher engagement? Yeah. Yes, exactly, right? So be a student. At the end of the day, your teachers are humans. Yes, sweetie, back there. Oh gosh, I can't. Can you repeat? Yeah.
How did you record this data on how you're more likely to participate in class if you have a good relationship with your teacher?
So the National Education Association, which they'll all be at the bottom, they do intensive research studies where they get like a sample of students. They do data tracking and reporting over time. So that's how these national organizations, and you'll see a bunch of different ones, then report that data out. Yeah. So these are what are called researchers. Oftentimes they have like PhDs in education psychology that do years and years of work on this. Yeah. Good question. Very good question. Okay. So the next thing is from Education Northwest here is 85% of teachers say they are more likely to help students who put in effort and communicate respectfully. Okay. Take a pause there. So the reason this is important is because, again, like I said, your teachers are humans, and of course they have a responsibility to educate you, to be kind to you and everything. But teachers, at the end of the day, just like you, if someone is nice to you and communicates effectively and respects you, what are you more likely to do? You want to engage with them, right? You want to help them. You want to talk to them. So think about it in that perspective, and not just with teachers, but with anybody, right? Anybody in the world and in life. So I'm going to can I have 2 volunteers? Maybe, okay. All right. So the question is, though, let's read the question just to make sure you still want to volunteer. How would you ask your teacher how you can do better in class? Okay. I'm going to go with you in the blue here. So you'd pretend you're going up to your teacher. You didn't do well in class. How are you going to approach them?
How can I do better in class?
Okay. Okay. I see a hand back there. Can we have her participate? Yeah. Yeah.
So I saw that I wasn't doing good in this assignment or whatever. I want to know what I could improve on this assignment.
Okay. Okay, good. 2 different ways to ask. At the end of the day, both of you are asking for some advice, which is excellent. That's really the goal here, right? So couple things I want you to try to challenge yourselves to do. Always make good eye contact with them, right? Show them that you're engaged. Be very clear in your messaging. I think you gave a really clear a message of, I didn't do well here. How can I do better, right? Show your commitment. I think one way that I might approach it is, hey, teacher, I saw that I got, questions 3 and 4 wrong on this test. I tried to do them, redo them by myself. I got the same answer. Can you tell me where I'm going wrong? And here's my work, right? So now I'm telling them I've showed my commitment. I want to get better. I'm taking accountability. And then after, they might, go back and forth, teach you what you did wrong, walk you through it. And then after, thank you so much, right? Appreciate you walking me through that. Now I understand it better. Or if you still don't understand it better, ask them, can you explain it a different way? I didn't get it, right? But it's all about this. And the reason this is important for you, important skill for you to develop now is because guess what? You're going to need it in high school. And in high school, unfortunately, the teachers don't really want to talk to a lot of parents. They want to talk to you because a lot of those teachers see you as you're about to go to college and we want you to be independent enough to navigate those type of conversations. So the more you practice now, the better you'll be in high school and college. Yes, very good. Good. Okay, so build good relationships with your, yes. So that's an excellent question, and I hear that oftentimes. And I think if you feel like a teacher doesn't care, that is, your own assessment. But I think at the end of the day, they still have that shared responsibility, and you have your own responsibility as a student to show up, to do your best, to be engaged, to be nice. As long as you're doing what you need to do, that's the best you can do, right? I think in how they react should improve, but I know it varies. Yes?
What if my teacher wants me to do bad?
I find that difficult. Teachers definitely don't want you to do bad. It doesn't look good on them, I'll tell you that. So, yeah. Hint? Dissent?
What if my teachers hate me?
I don't think that's true either. But if they aren't, having a great positive relationship with you, I would maybe take a step back and say, am I talking over them sometimes? Am I really listening? Am I giving my best? Try to adjust your approach and see how she or he reacts then after. Yes.
They're trying to build a relationship, but they don't look like they want to build a relationship.
That's a great question. What I'll tell you is you could still be resilient, you could still be persistent in trying to do that. Of course, see whatever makes sense. You have to kind of assess your situation and what you're looking for. But I don't let that be a reason why you don't try, right? We always want to try. We always want to give our best. Yeah. And
Persistent, is kind of annoying to the teachers. I feel like because they do this look at me whenever I ask the same question over and over again when I don't get it.
so what I would challenge you to do, if you can, try to reword the question. Try to reword it in a different way. Because sometimes, just as humans too, you're like, I already answered that question. But when you reframe it, it's like, oh, okay, maybe I didn't answer it, right? So I would challenge you to try to do that too. And that's a really good skill just to have later on in life too. I know it sounds a little more like a cop-out answer, but it is something that I would encourage you to try to do. Yes, sweetie.
What if there's a test and everyone didn't answer that question correctly because they didn't say it anywhere, not in the books, not when she was teaching it or stuff like that.
So you're saying you answered a question, it was incorrect, but it was a new question. You don't feel like you were prepared for it. Okay, so that's a good question. So that's a good situation in which I would encourage you to say, hey, because oftentimes the questions that you get actually build on all the concepts you've learned. But yeah, there's always those challenging questions because they're trying to see if you can connect all the concepts. So what I would encourage you to ask is, how do I approach this? I reviewed these concepts. I still don't understand how it connects, right? So that might be the way. And then they might be able to break it down and connect it for you to make it make sense. Yeah. Okay. So just to recap, participate in class, but participate thoughtfully, right? Be curious, ask good questions, don't interrupt. Go to office hours if they have them. Sometimes I know at lunchtime they have, you can drop in and ask questions. Communicate with them directly. Try not to ask your parents to do it because, again, you need to develop that skill. Always, 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 always be respectful, be kind, be nice, and show appreciation. Okay. All right. The next item, so we talked about building good relationships with your teachers, something you want to do now in middle school. The next thing is you want to try to get an academic edge. What does this mean? Well, before I answer it, I'll be curious to see who knows how this question. What are some ways to get an academic edge in middle school? Yes.
Having some people that you know in high school. So then they
Okay.
can tell you what's good and what's not.
Okay, good. I like how you're being a strategic connector. Good. Yeah. Try harder. Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, very good. You're getting there. Okay, so the ways you can get an academic edge is to try to take a 0 period if you can, right? If it makes sense for you and your schedule. Start taking a foreign language, right? So the sooner you take a foreign language in middle school, the less you'll have to do in high school, which means you have more space to take other classes. And then take advanced math if you can. This is the biggest one, especially for those of you that are interested in like medicine or engineering. You really want to get ahead in the math. Yes.
Say if your school like kind of poor, they can't afford teachers or electives or 0 periods.
That's okay. Then you can skip that one. That one's totally optional. Yes. Okay, so if they don't have it, the good news is there are some other things you could still do. And again, every school is different, right? So your ability to kind of take advantage of all these will vary. And full disclosure, I don't expect any one person to take advantage of every single thing. Just a mix of them. Again, you're still in middle school, not in high school yet. Yeah.
What if like the teachers are mean and they just like won't let you take honors classes because they don't like you?
So a good question would be maybe why, right? Do they have evidence of why they don't think you would succeed and put you in the class? That's usually the reason being, right? But some other things you can all do, which you all have control over, you don't need the school to do this, is read for fun. How many of you like to read? Good. Okay, good. So for those of you that didn't raise your hand, that's okay. The one thing I do want to really underscore about reading is I want you to read. It could be anything. I don't care what they read. Just read something. And then parents, I encourage you to ask them to tell you what did they read. Summarize it back to you. Why? Because this is how we see reading comprehension, right? Are they able to react and kind of tell you what they just read, or did they just read and they don't remember? A lot of us do that, right? So this is how we kind of build that muscle for them. And another reason why reading is so important is because at some point, many, if not most of you, will take the SAT or ACT for your college application. And guess what? The reading portion of it has a lot of more sophisticated words. And the reading comprehension piece, a lot of folks don't do very good if they don't have strong reading comprehension skills. But there is a lot of evidence that shows kids that read a lot and have good vocabulary do really, really well on that portion of the SAT, ACT. So again, the skills you're building now are for the future and beyond, right? So this is why it's important. Okay, I saw her hand up and then I'll come to you guys. Good question. So the colleges are looking for you to take at least 2 years of a foreign language, and it has to be through the school. So although you speak Arabic, usually the schools don't have Arabic, right? They might have like Spanish in middle school, and then in high schools I've seen like Chinese, Japanese, French, Spanish. Yeah, those usually are your options. Yes, Sudi back there.
Question. I think there's virtual school. You can do Arabic if you
Okay.
do virtual school.
Yes.
I don't know if that's completely true, but
So
you can.
yeah, you can. I would just make sure that it would give you the credit that you need. I haven't seen that one yet, so it might be a newer thing. I will say a lot of the schools are starting to offer a lot of different things. But here's the other thing too. If any of you are interested in taking an AP language at some point, there's no AP Arabic. I'll tell you that for sure. There's only like AP. I've seen AP French, AP Spanish. I've seen AP Chinese, but I haven't seen AP Arabic. Okay, let me move over here because I saw his hand has, I think, been up. Yeah. I'm going to come to you next. Yeah.
Okay.
You had a question?
Oh yeah. For the SATs,
Uh-huh.
is it true that like if we do good on the practice SATs, then like it could like be good for like our college applications?
Yes, it's a good question. And the short answer is yes. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, so hang on to that question. I'll expand there. And then I think in the blue, he had his hands up too.
What if we're in a school district which has 7th and 8th grade as middle school and 6th and under as elementary?
Sorry, say that one more time for me.
What if we're in like a school district which has 7th and 8th grade as middle school and 6th and under as elementary?
So it depends on the district, and that's okay. Again, your grades and stuff that matter to the colleges are going to be what you do in ninth grade. And every district, there's a high school that starts in ninth grade. Even if they mix like the schools together, ninth is always distinguished as high school. So that shouldn't affect you. Yeah. One more hand here, and then one more hand here.
Going back to the AP language classes, where can we find those, and how do we know, and how do we make sure that the credits from that class will be added to our record?
So if you go to collegeboard.com, you'll find all the APs that are offered throughout. But APs at schools might look different because there's probably 30-ish APs offered, but not every school offers all of them. I've seen some schools that offer 6. I've seen some schools that offer 22 of them. So it just depends. But just something to know, I'll just share this with you, is you can take an AP exam without taking the AP class. I know. I don't usually recommend it because people have taken the AP class for an entire year before they take an exam, but I have seen some kids self-study and take the exams. Again, not usually what I recommend unless you are very, very, very dedicated to doing it and you have good extracurriculars. I say that because I prefer you save that extra time that you do have on your extracurriculars. But it just depends on the kid. Yeah, last question.
If you took a foreign language outside of your school, would that still count as taking a year of foreign language?
So it depends. Again, you're talking in high school, right? Yeah. So it depends. As long as the class can transfer back in for credit, it's fine. So in middle school, the benefit here is let's say I start Spanish 1 in 8th grade. When I go to 9th, I take Spanish 2. Whereas most kids start Spanish 1 in 9th grade. So you're already ahead. Again, you're creating more space to take other classes. Or maybe you finish AP Spanish by junior year because you take Spanish 3 and then AP Spanish. Whereas most kids starting in 9th grade would have to take that across 4 years. You could take it across 3 because that's what I mean by starting to take something there. Yeah. Yeah.
Spanish 1 in 7th grade, you have to take an 8th and then 10th and 11th?
So technically for the UCs in particular, you only need 2 years of foreign language. So if you take in an 8th, Spanish 1 will count because you've taken Spanish 2. So that's how they'll overwrite it. But again, you don't have to do all of them, right? So I don't want you to get super hung up on any one thing. I want you to just diversify these different experiences. I'm just letting you know what you can do, right? Yeah. One more hand.
What happens if you took a foreign language 1 year and then somehow your school doesn't have enough resources, so then you can't take it for another year up until high school? How would that work?
That's okay. Usually we'll have at least to see how you did in the first portion of it. And if you did well, they should place you in Spanish 2 in 9th grade. Okay. I'm going to move on to talk about math now because this is the one that I think a lot of you might be a little more interested. Don't worry too much about the foreign language, but the math one, if you can, I would always encourage you to prioritize this one. So, again, as I mentioned, for those of you that are interested in medicine or maybe interested in engineering of some sort, my personal goal for you always is I would love to see you all take up to AP Calculus BC, so number 6, what you see there. So as you can imagine, we got to work backwards, right? So number 5 would be before BC, pre-cal, and then algebra 2. So what I like to, in my ideal world with students, if you can take algebra 1 in 8th grade, or even better in 7th grade, and you take geometry by 8th grade, you get to start high school at algebra 2, right? And then you take pre-calc or integrated math, whatever your school offers, and then you can go into the calculus 1, which is AB, and then calculus 2, which is BC. So if you're in engineering, I really, really encourage you to do this. If you're interested more in bio, you could get away with just taking calculus AB as the highest level. So that means you're starting geometry in 9th grade. If you're starting with algebra 1 as a freshman, it's okay, right? You could still try to challenge yourself in other ways, but it does put you a bit behind if you're trying to reach up to calculus 1, right? So this is what I mean by if you're able to get ahead with the math, you just have more classes that will be available to you in high school. And then AP Stats is always optional. I don't think you always have to take it if you're interested like engineering or science, but if you're interested maybe like psychology or history or even like political science, and AP Stats is a good class. And you could take that after pre-calc. That's fine. You don't have to take, I know it's number 7, but it could technically be 5 or 6. It doesn't have to sit at number 7. Any questions? Yes, I see a hand.
What about if you want to get a doctoral degree?
So if you want to get a doctorate degree, we got to get the bachelor's first, and then maybe a master's if that's what you want to do, or if you can go then straight to a doctorate degree. So you'll take the classes you need for a doctorate degree when you do your bachelor's, not when high school. Yeah, it's way too soon. Okay, any questions about this before we move on? Yes.
What's the? Can you tell me again? What's the first math thing we're supposed to do?
So it depends where you start, right? Typically, if you weren't taking more advanced math in middle school, come 9th grade, they're always going to put you in Algebra 1 because that's the lowest math usually high schools offer, right? So if you start 9th grade Algebra 1, Geometry 10th, 11th Algebra 2, pre-calc by the time you're a senior. The other thing I do want to mention that I think a lot of people don't realize is the SAT again. I know. Sorry, give me 1 second. So the SAT, does anyone know what type of math they test you on? Okay. So they test you on Algebra 2 math. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. So if they're testing you on Algebra 2 math and you're taking it junior, senior year, what do you think that means if you start with math, Algebra 1 freshman year? Excuse me. If you have to take the SAT junior year and they're testing you on Algebra 2 math, what does that mean if you're taking Algebra 2 as a junior? Not ready, right? You've only learned a portion of it, right? So a lot of kids that start later in math don't usually do well on the SAT math portion either. So kids that are already taking taking pre-calc or taking AP Calculus 1, by the time they're, junior, senior, or junior, they're ahead. They've already completed that. So they're going into the SAT, ACT with the knowledge they need to succeed. So that's another thing people don't realize. So the 2 biggest things to do well in the SAT, ACT, read and get ahead in math. Because those 2 things really determine your success. Yeah.
When do we take the ACTs?
Typically, junior year is when you want to take them. Huh? Yes, sorry, 11th grade. You typically want to take 11th grade. However, if you're not happy with your score, you can take it again going into senior year, but you are cutting it close. Yeah.
Does the SATs determine if we go to college or not, or does it determine, or does it follow us around?
Good question. So the SAT does have bearing on your admission into a lot of schools. So a lot of people right now, you've probably heard, oh, the SAT, ACT is not required for the UCs, so they don't have to worry about it, right? Maybe you've heard this. For you guys right now, though, I am pretty much expecting a test will be back by the time you apply to college. So do prepare and plan to take it. Just so you know, the UCs actually, there's a big study came out of UC San Diego where over 30 or 40% of the incoming students were behind in math. And usually before, when they had the SAT, only 8% would come in behind in math. So a lot of the UCs, the professors, are coming together and they're very upset because the kids are coming underprepared. And a lot of professors actually never agreed with getting rid of the SAT, ACT. So they're doing 2 things right now. They're either thinking about developing their own exam for the UCs, or they're going to reinstate the SAT, ACT. And that will for sure, again, be probably back by the time you guys are applying for college. Whereas the private schools, so like USC, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, something like that, a lot of them are requiring it already. Some of them are still saying test optional, but I can tell you for a fact, the more competitive private schools, they actually are disproportionately, meaning majority of kids being admitted have an SAT score. So don't be fooled by the optional. I'll tell you right now, it's kind of a sales tactic, right? Where they want more kids to apply and they pay for an application thinking they have a chance, and they don't always. So again, not for every private school, but very competitive private schools. I share this with you just so you have that knowledge and source, because a lot of people don't realize that. They really believe kind of what is told to them, and it's very tactful. Yes.
If you take the high set exam, if you take the high set exam at 10th grade and you leave like after 10th grade, how will we take the SAT?
You don't take the SAT. If you take the high set and you leave high school, you're going straight to a community college, and you're going to take the classes that you need to transfer at that point. Reason being is because, you can't, there's no need for you to take the SAT because you still won't have completed all the classes in high school to go to a four-year university. You have to go to community college. For those of you that do take the high set, keep in mind you can take the test, pass, and decide not to leave high school. But once you leave, you leave. So just make sure you're 100% certain. Yeah.
For the SAT, if you get a good SAT score and a low GPA, would it still be considered as a passing grade?
Good question. Okay, so you have a low GPA but a high SAT. I would prefer to see that than really good grades and very bad SAT score. Why? Does anyone want to guess? Yeah.
Because grades, you could kind of fix it. While SATs, it's like an exam of what you should know.
Exactly. Very good. So the reality is everybody in the United States takes the same SAT. From a kid here to a kid in New York, in Nebraska, they're all taking the same exam. But not every kid has the same teacher. Not every kid has the same school. And I will tell you, there is a lot of chatter amongst the universities right now that they are seeing the grades inflated. Meaning, I see a lot of kids have straight A's. And oftentimes, all the schools are just giving them the A's. But when they take an exam, like the AP exam or the SAT, ACT, they do terrible. And that doesn't look good. Because again, everybody's taking the same exam, but not taught the same way. So how you do on those exams actually are much more impressive, especially if you do really well. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So how can we make sure what we're learning is actually what's going to be on the SAT?
Good question. So read, for starters, right? Make sure you're getting ahead of math. The other thing is you could start to do SAT prep. There's a free resource that all of you could start. Well, maybe you don't need to start right now, but Khan Academy, they have a free resource that you could do to prep for the SAT. Once you're in like 9th, 10th grade, they'll also make you take the PSAT. That gives you kind of an assessment of where you're standing. And then if it's available to you, you could also go to like private tutoring. There's a lot of free online resources too that you could start to look at to prepare yourself. Yes, last question.
Are all SATs the same, or like does each school like have a different variation of it?
All SATs are the same. All the SAT and or ACT, same thing. Whether when you take it at the same time, every other kid in the United States is taking the same exam. Questions kind of get jumbled up, but it's all the same. Yes.
Is 7th grade a good, do you have to start Algebra 1 in 7th grade, or can you start it in 6th?
Usually schools don't offer it in 6th grade. It's the earliest I've seen kids take Algebra 1 is in 7th grade, for the most part. So yeah, but if you start in 7th grade, you're very well on track. Yeah. Okay. Any other last questions before I switch over to the next thing? Okay, I see a lot of hands. I haven't heard from him in the gray shirt, so maybe we'll give him an opportunity.
So is it a bad thing if you're 2 ahead in 6th grade? Because what if I'm in pre-algebra?
Excellent. That means you're going to be in Algebra 1 next year. You're on track. You're good. Never a bad thing to be ahead. Never, never. Okay, I still see a hand up, so I'll give you the last one.
So for the A through G requirement, if you don't go through A through G, like you get 1 year of Spanish and you just stay on that 1 year of Spanish, would some colleges still like admit you? Like
No.
Yeah.
They will not admit you because you haven't met the A through G requirements. A through G requirements are the classes you have to take, the classes you have to take in high school to be eligible for college admission, for 4-year college admission. So if you only take Spanish 1, you won't be admitted because you need 2 years of foreign language at least. Okay. Hi. You ready? Ready for college? All right. So no, it's okay. So the next thing is have a growth mindset. So we talked about building good relationships with your teachers. Hi. You ready? So cute. So we talked about building good relationships with your teachers, getting an academic edge, and now the next thing is have a growth mindset. How many of you know what that is? Yes, yes, yes. You in the back, can you tell me one thing that is part of having a growth mindset?
You don't say that you can't do it, you say that you can always try.
Good, okay. Yes.
You always try to make room for improvement.
Excellent. Back there.
I assume from the picture you switch I can to I can.
Very good. You're using a lot of good context clues. Very good. Awesome. Okay, so yes, having a growth mindset is one that says, you know, I see sometimes kids, oh, it's too hard. I can't do this. I'm not smart like everybody. Oh, they're just naturally smart, right? That is a fixed mindset. That means you think that you cannot do anything, right? But to have a growth mindset means, you know, you're always challenging yourself. If you fail, guess what? You get up and you try again, right? You don't let it defeat you. If you don't do well on something, you don't give up. You actually look for feedback, right? So when we talked about asking your teachers for help and like, what did I do wrong? That is a growth mindset. That is asking for feedback. How do I improve, right? Instead of going home, oh, I got an F and my teacher hates me and this is, you know, I'm never going to be good at math. That's fixed mindset, right? We don't want to be that way because the reality is all of you are going to face a lot of different challenges in life, not just in school, that you need to have a growth mindset to stay positive, right? So especially in school though, try to always have a growth mindset. So not to call you guys out, but I know some of you said, oh, my teacher hates me. My teacher just doesn't like me. My teacher wants me to fail. That can fall under the bucket of fixed mindset, right? So let's change the way we talk about it, reframe it as my teacher doesn't like me yet, right? So we want to reframe that, okay? Yeah, hand?
Just gotten 100.
Well, then in that case, just keep doing what you're doing. Just don't let it slip from there, okay? All right. We already did this one, so I'll skip that. But just some, review of educational research says that 92% of students who embrace constructive feedback actually improve their grades, right? So asking for feedback, asking how I can improve. Well, they will actually improve their grades because you're building a more positive relationship and you actually kind of have a framework of what to do, how to continue moving forward. Yes.
What if your teacher says that because you have already not a good grade, they say you can't get any extra credit or stuff like that because they think that you can't, that they say that if you couldn't do your normal work, then you can't handle the extra credit, but yeah.
It's a good question. So, well, the first thing I would say is do you have a reason why we couldn't do the normal work first, right? Because they kind of have a point in a way, right? It's you had your opportunity just like everyone else to do what you were supposed to do. So why make an exception for you if you couldn't do it, right? So I would maybe take a step back and think, okay, what wasn't I doing that I should have been doing, right? So that doesn't happen again. But to not do what you need to do and then expect always for, some support or them to be flexible with you sometimes isn't always going to happen. And especially when you get to college, they definitely will not do that, right? So again, these are things that you can fix now though. It's okay. This is the time you fix things you learn about yourself. Yeah.
So what if you turn in assignment and then you see him grading it, but then next day you see that it's missing?
I would ask them maybe to just say, where is it? I'm not sure. That's a good question. I think we would ask the teacher.
Because I have a teacher and he does this and then he says, I don't know where your paper is, but then when he gives me a stack to look through, I find the paper.
Well, yeah. Well, the good thing is you have the ability to check, so you can find it. Okay, I'm going to just wrap up growth mindset and then we'll move to the next thing real quick. So remember, chase opportunities to learn, right? You are all still very much, think of your brain as a sponge. Whatever you allow for it to come in, it will absorb. So allow good things to come, allow good opportunities to come. View challenges as opportunities, right? That's a way for you to grow. It's a way for you to see things differently. Make mistakes to improve. If you make a mistake, that's okay. See it as an opportunity to improve. And again, know that your intelligence grows with experiences, right? The more you learn, the more knowledge you have. As they say, knowledge is power, right? And understand growth is a journey, not a destination, right? I don't know if you've ever heard this quote from Henry Ford, but he says, if you believe you can or you can't, then, oh gosh, I'm blanking on the rest of the quote, but then you are right, right? So he says, whether you believe you can do something, you're right, you can. Or if you think you can't, you're also right, because you're not going to do what you need to get there. So, again, all about growth mindset. Yes?
What if you want to try new things, but your parents aren't, they're not agreeing with you that you should try these certain things out?
That's a good question. And I understand, because my parents were the same when I was growing up. I think you have to, if I were you, if I was in your shoes, I think you need to also present why they should let you, right? Give them a good reason. Because maybe it is a good opportunity, but they just don't understand why, and that's okay. But your role, if you want something, to try to also educate them in that. If it's still not convincing, then maybe it's not something that you should be doing, right? But again, understand, give your parents the why. Because I know a lot of parents, sometimes it's just they don't have the full context, so that's why they can't agree with things. And that's totally fair, right? So, yeah. One more hand, yeah.
A lot of us in here, we're in Scouts, and if we reach the Eagle rank, we get credit for college, but what if you bomb the SAT and then you don't get into the college you were trying to, so the points for college just doesn't matter?
Okay, so you're saying like you do your best, you get Eagle rank, but you still fall short on the SAT. Does that mean like you won't get into a good school? So the short answer is the SAT is one component. It's not everything, right? It is obviously a very valuable component, but you still have your grades in your classes, your extracurriculars, what you write about in your applications to give them context. I'll give you an example. Maybe you didn't do well in the SAT because you were really sick when you had to take the SAT, right? Or maybe you were really busy involved in helping at home and doing different things. That's why the autobiography piece is important for you to give that context, right? To help them understand what happened. Right? If you're able to do that, that can give them understanding of maybe why you didn't do so well, right? Maybe you were really sick for several months, right? There is sometimes things that you can explain it as. So there's always that opportunity there too. Yes?
The extracurricular?
Absolutely, yes, it does. So you all are already investing in an extracurricular, which is awesome. Yes, it's good. It's time very well spent. Yeah.
As an extracurricular.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a sport. Again, so in short, starting in 9th grade, the day you start 9th grade, what I want you to think about, I'll tell you all right now, and maybe parents, you can help them do this, but start to write down everything you do and everywhere you spend your time outside the classroom. Okay? Because it'll make your college application process a lot easier. And then I would even challenge you to write how many hours am I spending per week on this? And how many weeks per year am I also doing this? Because colleges are going to ask for that information too. They want to know, again, how do you spend your time? Are you just sitting at home, not doing anything? Or are you, in church helping with the little kids, community service? Are you helping the homeless? Are you, spending time on a project from a personal project that you're interested in? Are you in an internship? Are you working somewhere, right? All these things help them understand your life and your context. Because at the end of the day, the colleges are comparing you to your life circumstances, where you went to school, what opportunities you had access to or didn't have access to. But it's your responsibility to paint that picture for them because they don't know that, right? All of you are different. So, yeah. Okay, I see one more hand up, and then we'll go to the next item here.
When you're if you have a teacher who isn't clear with assignments and says to do this one assignment, but then don't do this one assignment, but then the next week they say it's due and they didn't work on it with you at all, and then you get a bad grade on it because you didn't get to do the assignment in a certain amount of days and correctly because you didn't understand it. Yeah.
So I would probably think about talking to the teacher and maybe on a weekly basis say, hey, and maybe raise your hand at the start of a class and say, hey, I know we have these things due, or what's exactly due? This is what I have noted, right? So you get ahead of it, so it's not after the fact that it's already due and then you missed it, right? So maybe having those little check-ins with the teacher would help. Yeah. Okay. All right, I'm going to move on. Okay, I see one. Actually, I haven't heard from her in the back. Is it okay if I go to her? And then I'll move on to the next item here.
What is considered a good score for the SAT?
Good question. So the SAT, it ranges from 0 to 1,600. 800 for the math portion, 800 for the English portion, English reading comprehension portion. So max you can get on each section is 800 points. A really good score is at least a 1,500 and above. So let's say 750, 750. Where I do see a handful of students sometimes landing the first time they take it is about the 1,1300 range. I always recommend you try to retake. You try to restudy and retake. And again, 1,500, 1,550, we're talking about very elite schools. 1,400 could still get you into some really good schools, 1,400 and above, but usually anything below that is a little more risky. Yeah. Okay. All right, so the next thing, yeah. One more question. You have good questions. I want to answer all of them. Yeah.
Say if you're retaking the SAT or the ACT and you got a worse score in the retake than the actual first attempt.
Good question.
What score will be kept? The better one or the most recent one you
Yeah,
took?
so they'll do what's called like super score, which means they take the best from the best. So if you did really, really well the first time on English, but you did worse the second time, they're going to take the first time. And if you did better on the math the second time, they'll take the second. So they pick the best. They pick the highest score, regardless of which one you take. Okay? All right. Okay, I know you had your hand up, so yeah, here in the back. Thank you.
So we were talking about extracurriculars, right?
Mm-hmm.
So about how many extracurriculars do you want to aim to have in high school so you don't seem scattered when you go for the college application?
Okay, good question. So there's no magic number. I'll say that. No one ever looks at the application and says, oh, if they don't have 10, they're not, a committed student. It's not that. What we naturally look for, though, is your, I'll call it passion, commitment, and leadership. So commitment, how long did you do it? Did you just do it one time and you put on your application? Not very great, right? Yeah, you filled in the box, but probably doesn't have a lot of commitment in it. Number 2, passion. Does it align with, as you build your application, with something you're interested in? For example, maybe you're interested in engineering, let's say, and you have all these extracurriculars that are involved in engineering. That shows passion. If you have nothing that's involved in engineering and you're applying for a very competitive engineering major, they're going to say, well, how do you know you want to do this, right? You don't have anything to necessarily back it up that you have this interest. And this is why I say, think about what you like now. So when you go to 9th grade, you're very intentional where you spend your time about. So that falls into the passion bucket. And then lastly, leadership. Leadership, what that means is, how did you have an impact per se? Actually, let's call it impact, not leadership. Impact. Did it impact you or did it impact others? So oftentimes a lot of extracurriculars, a lot of it's under service, so we're helping others, but also sometimes in an extracurricular, you realize something about yourself. You help yourself grow. And that's also important as the reflection piece of impact. So the 3 things: commitment, impact, and passion. That's what we look for in extracurriculars. So I share that though because I do see a lot of kids, and I just don't want you all to fall into this, I see a lot of kids that always lack the commitment piece. They did something one time. They went to help the homeless one time in 4 years for 2 hours. That doesn't really demonstrate a whole lot of community service. But maybe they did it, once a month, every month for 4 years. Or maybe they took it a step further and they started to rally in their communities and get grocery stores to donate things so they could give, create packages and give to the homeless, right? That really shows not only the passion and commitment, but also impact, right? Because now they're having an impact in the community and impact by being able to help even more people than they originally wanted to, right? So that all kind of is a good example of how you can check all 3 boxes. Yeah. Okay, a lot of hands. I see one hand back there, and then 2, 3. Okay. Yeah.
So like, let's say you just said like you do like something for the community, so you do something for the homeless, and you put that out. How do they know if you're like lying or not?
That's a great question. So, how do they know? I'll tell you this. They do randomly check extracurriculars. And what I mean by this is they're going to call the places that you've listed to have them verify that you've done it. I will say it's very rare and highly unlikely that your application will get selected to do that, but they do this as a routine check, and they'll check several applications every single year. Yeah. Yeah, if a school's interviewing you too, they could also do that too, just to kind of see what you have to say. Yeah, yeah. Hand here.
Is grading in like high school and college like also like A's and B's, and do they grade it the same way, or is it like different grading?
It depends on the school. Some colleges actually go up to A+. Most colleges will do just A, B, C, but some will actually do B+, B-. A lot of the UCs do B-, B, B+. And then some of the private schools, they typically just do A, B, C, D. Mm-hmm. Yes, hand.
Can skipping a grade help in college? If so, how?
Good question. So if you were to skip a grade, oftentimes the schools may not inherently know that. And what I mean by that is, let's say you skipped in 3rd grade. Colleges aren't looking at your transcript from 3rd grade. They're only looking from high school, really, right? So they don't know that. But if you share that information, again, in your autobiography piece, you give them context about your life experiences and how you got there, that could be helpful, right? I think one thing when kids do skip grades, it's always interesting to know is how have you continued to challenge yourself? Or even talk about maybe being, a year younger than people. What challenges did you run into? How did you have to overcome them to stay on track with people? If that was the situation, is also helpful to share. Yeah. I see a hand back there.
What if you do the exit exam and you skip the 2 years? Is that really
Yes,
bad?
I'm sorry. So what if you do the exit exam and?
You skip the 2 years of high school.
Okay, so if you do the exit exam, you don't have to take the SAT, right? Because you basically are saying, so what is the exit exam? Does anybody know? What does it test you on? Yeah, show your hand. Okay, so the reason that exam exists and what it's testing you on is, do you have the level of knowledge that a 10th grader in the state of California should have, which is basic math and basic reading. More often than not, kids always pass it because it is very basic. And what it equates to is almost like a high school diploma. Because in the state of California, technically, usually what you learn up to 10th grade is equivalent to a high school diploma. Everything you're taking thereafter is to prepare for college. So that is why when you take that exam, you are only being measured on 10th grade level, which is why you cannot go to a 4-year university right after. You haven't taken all the classes you need. But what you can do is say, okay, I'm done with high school. I met the California requirements. Now I'm going to go to community college. So you have to go to community college. It's your only option. And that's okay if you're ready for it. The only thing I always say too is just make sure if this is a path you want to take, that you've really evaluated everything. Like parents evaluate to make sure, is the kid emotionally mature? Is the kid academically mature? Because they're going to be around people that are 18 to, 80, right? The community college is very diverse. And the teachers or the professors at the college are going to treat them like a college student, not a high school student. You forgot your homework? Okay, too bad. That's a 0, right? They're going to say, oh, we'll give you an extension. We know you're supposed to be in 11th grade. They will not do that at all. They won't they miss class. They don't care. Right? So they will treat them as they are as a college level student. So I always say make sure that the student is ready for that. If you feel like they're ready, okay. The other thing too I say is make sure whatever they do in college after they take the high set, that transcript is going to the universities. So if they do bad the first semester, it's going to travel with them. It's not they're not starting fresh. That is already their grades. It impacts the GPA. And I've seen it happen, unfortunately, a few times where kids weren't ready. They take a bunch of classes, they take a lot of classes, and they get Ds and Fs and Cs. And then they're crying and worried. They're like, oh, it's going to be on my transcript. I said, yeah, it is. You can't erase that anymore, right? So, yeah, hand back there.
what would make the exit exam a more reasonable option than staying in high school for 4 years? Why would you take that option even though it would stay on your transcript and it may be a bit more harsh? What would be the reason to do that?
Yes, very good critical questions. So it depends, is the short answer. I've seen some situations, I'll give you an example. I had a student one time, she came from Egypt and they couldn't articulate her classes here. So they put her in 10th grade level stuff when she really was like 11th grade and should be taking a bunch of AP. She was very smart. But they said, well, we can't articulate what you took. We don't know. So we're going to put you at the standard 10th grade level. It was a waste of her time. So for her, it made sense. Take the exit exam, leave, and start getting ahead. Other situations, right? And again, it depends on the individual, but maybe they just don't feel comfortable or safe in the high school and they prefer to just kind of do their own and they are very smart. That makes sense too. But it really is a case-by-case basis. It's not for everyone, but it is for some people. Saving financially is a good question. So I know a lot of people think, yeah, right, you get ahead 2 years, you got to save 2 years time-wise. And financially, yes, you can save some time and money if the intent is. So I'll give you an example of when you don't always save money, because this is the one I get very common is, oh, I want them to take the high set, start the college early because they want to be a doctor, and doctor takes 8+ years, so we want to save 2 years. Logically, yes, it's a good idea, but where sometimes it can work against you is some schools actually say you have to take medical schools. So medical schools will say this. You have to take the general biology, general chemistry, organic chemistry, all those core classes at a 4-year university. But guess what? If you're taking a community college and then you transfer, and you have to take those at community college usually to transfer because they're general education classes, you might find yourself needing to retake classes. I've seen some kids actually have to do a post-bac after, meaning it's in between like a bachelor's and getting into graduate school where they now have to spend money on that because they need to demonstrate that they took the classes at a 4-year. So it doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. Another thing I will say about medical, it depends on the school. Like a Harvard, a Yale, a Stanford, they want you to take it at a 4-year university. But I know like some medical schools in the Caribbean, they don't care, and that's okay. So it just kind of depends what your goals are long term, and just making sure that you're fully aware of, if I do this, I might be limited in some cases. If you're fine with that, that's fine. But it just depends, yeah. Good question. Okay, I see 2 hands in the back.
So in elementary, middle school, and high school, which like one out of all 3 of those, like does your grades matter most in college?
High school, and in particular, the ones that matter the most, 10th and 11th. Reason being, because when you go in 9th grade, a lot of kids struggle to adjust from middle school to high school, and that's okay. And the high schools, the colleges understand that. So sometimes we see a little turbulence in the grades, I say, like, oh, they got a B or a C when they were normally straight A students. But once they understand the rhythm and the flow of high school and to manage their time, they start to do better in 10th grade. And then by 10th and 11th grade, you're also taking more challenging courses. So that's why they focus more on those 2 years. And then 9th grade, obviously, you still want to do well, but if you don't do perfect, that's okay because you have time to redeem yourself. And then 12th grade, so 12th grade still matters because they still will ask you, what classes are you taking in 12th grade, right? So they're going to know, are you still challenging yourself? Or are you taking easy courses? You want to still challenge yourself. And then the UCs actually in particular, and even the Cal States, will ask you in January. So you apply for college in November 30, December 1st. And then in January, the universities are going to email you and say, hey, we know your fall grades came out. What did you get? How did you do? And then now they take that information and they add it to your application, and then they review and make their decision. So they will get up until your 12th grade year. So if they see all of a sudden, beginning of 12th grade, you just went down and you didn't take challenging courses, that's a bad sign for them. So they will still get more information about you. Yes?
I start to hear about Cal Baptist as a pre-med. A lot of youth asking me in their confessions. So we thought that UCs is better as a pre-med. But nowadays I heard a lot about Cal Baptist as a very strong program for pre-med, and it's easy to get in.
Yeah.
And they give a lot of
Chips, yeah.
ships, and they match the public in the tuition.
Yes. So, Cal Baptist is a good option. The only thing I will say with Cal Baptist that the UCs have that they don't have is research. So the UCs are research institutions. This is why they are a lot more harder to get into, why they're more expensive. So because they are research institutions, how that impacts the students, especially on a pre-med track, they have the opportunity to be a research assistant in a lab. They have access to professors that are actual researchers that have the ability to kind of get them more into that pathway. Whereas Cal Baptist, not all the professors have like a PhD or research background. To teach at Cal Baptist, you can actually have a master's to teach. To teach at a UC, you have to have a PhD. The professors all have PhDs. So that is what they are, in fact, the professors at the UCs, half the time they are doing research, half the time they're teaching. So whereas like Cal Baptist, sometimes you have most of them just teaching. They don't do research or practice. So that is the one thing that the UCs will always have over a lot of smaller private schools. Always. Doesn't matter the smaller private school, is how much money, federal funding, government funding they get into do research, right? So that's the one thing that I always say. And those opportunities on the pre-med or on the application for medical school look really, really good. They're always going to outweigh, I just, shadowed at a hospital, or I got my phlebotomy license, right? Things like that. Those real, like they call wet labs, really, in the lab doing things, always outshine that. And the other thing too is I see a lot of kids, if they get early involved in a lab at the UCs, I've seen some kids come out with a published paper or a published paper under review, and that looks really good too. And again, if the Cal Baptist doesn't have the research labs, that opportunity is very hard to kind of get and even do. Yeah. Yes. So it's definitely, it's there. It's not as strong though. But maybe in the next couple of years they'll get better as they get more funding, because the thing too with private schools in particular, they rely heavily on getting private funding. So funding from, alumni or families, whereas the UCs always have an advantage. They get government funds because the government wants them to do research. So they say, here's millions of dollars to do it. Whereas they're not going to Cal Baptist trying to give them millions. Even if they give them something, it's maybe 20,000, or it's always going to be smaller scale. Yeah. Question back there.
For the kids who already applied for, they already did the exit exam, and this is their last semester in community college. They already applied, did the applications for all the UCs.
Yeah.
Do they still have a chance to apply again for the Cal Baptist, or that?
Good question. So the Cal Baptist application, I'm pretty sure at this point is closed to start in the fall. So they wouldn't be able to do that. But let's say, if they're not happy with any of the schools they get into, they could take almost like a break year, where maybe they do other extracurriculars or take more classes or something and then reapply next year. But if they're getting into a really good UC, I think you're good. Maybe you take that option. So, yeah. Yes. Ooh, a lot of hands. Yeah.
When they're looking at like your grades, so you said they start like really looking at grades and they like really matter in like high school, right?
Yes.
So do they ever like look at your elementary grades or no?
No. Yeah. Okay. Are these about grades? Okay, let me just move it to finish, and then after we'll get to your questions. You have really good questions. Okay, the next thing, so again, we talked about build good relationships with your teachers, get an academic edge, have a growth mindset. The next thing is choose your friends wisely, which I'm sure all of you do. But does anyone want to tell me what's an important characteristic that is important to you when you make friends with people? Yeah. Inspiring, okay, good. Hand? Academically advanced, very good. Yes. Loyalty, excellent. She got it? Okay. All right. Yeah, these are all really good qualities, right? So the reality is, according to the Journal of Educational Psychology, is that there's an analysis that shows 85% of students say they follow the study habits of their closest friends. That's a lot. That's a lot, right? So it's very important that you have a good influence around you to make sure that you are, excuse me, that you are kind of acting in accordance. So as you seek good friends, of course, I will say you also be a good friend and a good influence. And then, yes, studies also show that supportive friends are 50% more likely to bounce back from setbacks or poor grades or poor challenges. So again, just underscoring the importance of good friends. All right. This is more so for parents. I'll go through this very quickly. It's just understanding the resources that are available. So there is something that's called, and this is usually at the public schools, individualized education program. Oh, yeah. This one, I'm almost done. Let me see. I have 2 more things. They need to go? Yes, I'll keep going. All right, so I'm going to cover, I'll go through this quickly. Okay, yeah. So extracurriculars, I think you all know, it's important. So I'm going to skip through that. There are different things you can try, right? Okay, sorry. Okay, so for the activities, explore a range of opportunities and activities. This is the time as 7th, 8th graders, 6th graders, you're doing that, okay? And then the next thing here is actually kids who participate in extracurriculars have a higher lifetime earning. Reason being is because you learn a lot of critical skills, learn how to be a leader, learn how to be a critical thinker, learn how to, navigate different problems and situations, because that's what a lot of extracurriculars teach you, right? You see a situation and you have to find a way to react to it. Skip that. Okay, so almost done here. Real quick, I want to just share with you all, as you think about college, I want all of you to always have very high aspirations if you can. And with this is not part of CEF. This is from the Egyptian Education Foundation, but this is a full 4-year ride, meaning they cover all college expenses for your bachelor's degree. If you apply and are admitted and attend one of these 5 schools, University of Chicago, Stanford, Harvard, University of Pennsylvania, and MIT. Obviously, these are all outside the state of California with the exception of Stanford, but these schools are extremely competitive schools, highly ranked schools, and I want you to know of this opportunity, again, as you kind of think through how you're going to approach high school and college, so you have a sense of that.
So the only condition is you are a Coptic or
This one, just Egyptian.
Egyptian and accepted.
Yes, but yes. Well, if you get the scholarship, yes. So I will say not a lot of kids apply to it because not a lot of kids get into those schools and they fit the requirements, which is Egyptian. And I don't think it explicitly says Coptic, but it is a Coptic foundation. It is like Coptic founded. So they only give 1 a year though.
Only one.
Only one.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, because they pay for 4 years. It's a lot. It's like $300,000 they're covering, so it's a lot of money. The next thing, I'll leave this opportunity with you all if you want to take advantage. This is not from CEF, but we have like a partnership with them where if you want to apply for this, there's a referral code. What this is you must be in 8th or 9th grade. And you would spend 1 week at UC Irvine, and they'll house you and everything, and there you'll learn about different things within financial literacy. So for any of you that are interested in finance, maybe, or just interested in exploring this opportunity, this is a great opportunity. And they do split it by boys and girls, though. So girls actually have 2 weeks. Boys, there's only 1 week for you all. I will say too, if I were to do this and I were you, I probably would really be interested in doing this in 9th grade because you get to put on your college application. In 8th grade, unfortunately, you won't get to put on your college application, but it could be a good experience for you to, think about if you like finance, economics, things like that, which are also really good majors. Yes, hand right there.
If I went on like a mission trip in like 4th or 5th grade, can I still put that on my college application, or would it not count?
You won't be able to, but if going to that mission trip influenced you to do something else, or had you reflect on a moment that you started to do in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, that is how you could connect it and talk about it. It was a life experience that you had that encouraged you to do something else. Yeah. Or if you have the opportunity to go on another mission trip in 9th, 10th grade, that's also really good. Yeah. Hand back there.
Do you think like how much a college is to like pay like every year matters?
Does it matter? So every college costs a little different. So for example, the Cal States, so like Cal State San Bernardino, Cal State Fullerton, Long Beach, those typically are going to be the cheapest four-year universities in the state of California, averaging at about $7,000, $8,000 per year. And then the UCs are the next most expensive, averaging about $15,000, $16,000 a year. And then after that, we jump really high to the private schools. And I've seen them average from anywhere of $25,000 to $75,000 per year. Very good question. So no, not necessarily. I do think there are some private universities that are very expensive and might not always be worth the money. So it depends on the school, is the short answer. Yeah. Okay. Last question, yeah?
So the school that you go to is when you go to it, depending on the school that you choose. Like let's say you went to Harvard, when you're applying for a job, does that boost your chances of getting that job, or is it just
Yes.
a name?
Yes, very good question. So the reality is a lot of fields, even you right now, you know what Harvard is, right? Do you know what Stetson College is or Spielman, right? So these are there's tons of colleges in the United States, but there's only a certain few that everybody knows, like a Harvard, a Yale, Stanford, right? So by default, you in your position right now is maybe in middle school, you know what that is. You can only imagine what that means kind of in the real world. I will say there are a lot of jobs and also very specific industries that they care a lot about that. I'll give you an example. The legal field, like to practice law, big law firms actually, especially the really top law firms, will not hire you unless you went to a top university. They care a lot about that. It's very pretentious, so to speak, right? But even investment banking, if you're interested in banking, and I don't mean a banking like the bank itself, but investment banking or venture capital, things like that, they also have a very high interest in people that went to top universities when admitting them for jobs. And then even big companies like a Google, Apple, Amazon, those corporate companies, they tend to disproportionately lean to those kids or those students. Not always. I've seen a lot of people with different backgrounds get jobs there, but there is just something that it's oh, you went to Harvard. People get very excited. It's just the way a lot of people perceive it. And it's not to say they're smarter or better, but it is a perception that gets associated with it. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? All good? Okay, the kids are good to go. I'm sorry I kept them long. Okay. Yeah, so the parents, it's just very quick here. Yes, IEP. So with the IEP, public high schools, middle schools, elementary schools offer IEPs. So the one thing I always just say is if you believe your kid would benefit from something like an IEP and the school is not telling you they need it, advocate for it, ask for it. Because I know a lot of schools too, unfortunately, the person that cares the most about your child is going to be you. Right? And you're able to advocate for them. You know your child, you kind of know their needs. So if you're not getting what you need, is just to ask for it. Sometimes I'll tell you, hey, we recommend this, we recommend that. And you as a parent and as a family obviously can, figure out whether you want to take advantage of it or not. But just note that there are IEPs or programs that are available to them where they kind of put them on certain classes, schedules that will benefit them. Okay. All right. That was more for the kids. I think actually we finished. We did that, the tip recap. Yeah, so any questions, comments, anything? Any questions from parents? My information's up here. I'm Catherine, and then Sandy again, our other counselor. Feel free to send us emails if you have any questions thereafter. We also have a website, copticedu.org. We have a lot of resources there. You can read through it. You can also schedule a one-on-one counseling appointment with me or Sandy. It is not of cost to anybody. It's just a free resource you could take advantage of. And if you're on the socials, we have Instagram, we have Facebook. You could also follow too at Coptic Educational Foundation. Excuse me. All right. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. You have very good kids. The kids are very curious. This is excellent. They're already on their way.
That's always Marimina.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very engaged.
Yeah.
All of them, even the boys.
Thank you so
Thank you.
very much. We appreciate the service of the Coptic Education Foundation. I remember about the kids engaged when I moved from San Francisco to here 9 years ago. So the whole youth came, group of them received me in the airport, and we came here for the youth meeting. And it was a big circle here. It was a dining hall. So I stayed with the kids. I came from the Bay Area, Silicon Valley. All of them are engineers, computer, Silicon Valley. So I have few physicians in the church. I have 32 or 33 PhD in computer science.
Wow.
Top notch. All over in the world as a Copts.
Yeah.
When I came here, I start to ask kid by kid, what do you want to be? MD, pharmacist, dentist, MD, no engineers, no. Now we have imported some engineers بقى. لكن هنا الكنيسة وده الانفلونس اللي انت بتقولي عليه اللي هو good influence. Kids encourage each other to be يعني academically successful. وربنا جاب لنا ابونا جيرمايا MD برضه. thank you Sandy يعني God bless you. It's annual meeting واحنا خدنا the first presentation, right Marimina?
Yes. No, this is my second one. I came last year too.
No, this year.
Oh, this year, first one.
First one.
And we usually do college one in the
yeah.
fall. Yeah.
When I got the availability, I chose the first one.
Oh, thank you.
So Sandy is very important for all of us. We're encouraging the kids, and it was very engaged session. Any questions in the topic or out the topic? يعني. Mercy.
Thank you.
نشكر الله. Mercy عندها question تاني.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, that's not a question.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. Did you speak about the scholarship?
Yes.
Connection with the export?
So, no, I didn't. So, the one I spoke about is the Egyptian Educational Foundation Scholarship. And that one is a 4-year full ride to, if they get admitted and they attend the school, is a University of Chicago, MIT, Harvard, Stanford, or the University of Pennsylvania. So, athletic scholarships are a little different. With that, the way it works is if the student is being recruited in high school, so usually college recruits or scouts, they call them sometimes, are going to their games, seeing, are they really good? And if so, they would recruit them, basically make an offer to them, say, hey, if you come to our university, as long as you check all the boxes, you're doing academically what you need to do, and we admit you, we will give you some money to attend. Because the exchange is they're going to be a student athlete. Right, they're, of course, a student first, but they spend a lot of time in playing the sport for the school. So that's why they're able to give them some money in exchange. You can't, though, here's the thing, unless, and I don't have these connections, but unless you really are very well connected and know people, you can't necessarily tell someone to come look at your student. They naturally, these scouts have their own connections and they know which schools have very competitive students. So they will come to the school and they will look for people. Again, unless you know them, but they usually come to you.
So it's not something to apply for?
No, usually no. I mean, there might be some smaller ones, whereas like you could say, oh, if you play basketball for this league or you play basketball generally and you're a girl under, 17 years old and you're playing very competitive basketball, they might, very specific scholarships might have it, but usually there's qualifications like must play basketball, must be a girl, must be interested in going to a 4-year university, not going to community college. Like you have to check all those boxes too. And those are honestly a little harder to find than just from smaller foundations. And then CEF, and this is a good example too. Like CEF, we offer a scholarship, but we also have our requirements. You must be, engaged in the Coptic community, right? You must have we usually say have at least 2 letters of recommendation. Oftentimes a lot of the kids get an abuna to send something kind of confirming that. So even our scholarship isn't necessarily like open just to anyone, right? And that's what you'll find with a lot of scholarships. They have like standard requirements too. Yeah.
Education, do they have to be like certain grade to get the scholarship?
Yeah, so usually most scholarships will generally be open to seniors in high school because they know, okay, you're going to college next year, right? Because they want to give you the money to use it right away. So they're not going to, usually they don't give someone money in 10th grade when they're not going to go to college for another 2-3 years. So that's usually the time. But some other good scholarships to kind of keep in mind, and like your student might not be eligible right now, but working towards it, there's like a QuestBridge scholarship, which is very competitive. But once you get it, they offer a lot of resources, a lot of support throughout college. There's a Coca-Cola scholarship. I had one kid actually from the community get it last year. He had a lot of really good extracurriculars, was spending a lot of time doing different things. And he got, with that one, I think like $40,000 he got, which is really a lot of money. And there's also some from, like there's like the Bill Gates one, the foundation that has a big scholarship. The Dr. Pepper actually has a big scholarship. So those are more larger ones that are a little more challenging to get, but the amount of money they give is a lot. Yeah, yeah. Good questions.
مش عارف اتكلمتوا على السكاوت.
Scout.
السكاوت ليها.
Good question. I don't think I've seen one with the Scouts, but
Not scholarship.
Oh.
Helping in the application.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. I think someone asked me earlier too. And yes, it's considered an extracurricular. And
Yeah.
the good thing too is as the kids start doing it now, they're starting in middle school. I assume they'll do it all throughout high school. By the time, 9th grade, they put on their college application, they could say, I've been doing this for 3 years in high school, right? Maybe even longer. And some of the kids will get, different positions within Scouts, right? Things like that. They can talk about that. And I would even encourage, as the kids in high school doing Scouts, is there something else they can do beyond Scouts? Meaning, as they work together, they see different things, they're engaged with different people, or do they have other solutions in which they want to help? That could be something they do together as a group, and that's the beauty of them all working together. But yeah, nonetheless, it's an excellent extracurricular. Yeah,
Okay.
good to have. Teaches them good leadership skills, good everything. Yeah. Good question. Any other questions? Good.
طيب أتسكى conclude.
Yeah, let's stand up and pray. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, God, amen. We thank you, Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, for every good and precious gift from your hands. We thank you for the opportunities that you lay before us to encounter you and to know you. We thank you for the service, that is provided for us through, the Coptic Educational Fund. And we ask, Lord, that you bless our young people with many opportunities to grow, that you encourage them with a spirit and a desire for learning. That you move in their hearts, Lord, to be disciplined, honest, to really be genuinely developing their minds, Lord, in a way that uses your talents, first for the furthering and the service of your kingdom, Lord, but also that they might serve their fellow man in whatever skill or talent you have given them, Lord. We ask this through intercession of your Holy Mother, Saint Mary, and the prayers of Saint Mina and Pope Kyrillos, and the prayers of the Bon of Joy, and all your servants that stand before you here, Lord, make us worthy to pray thankfully, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. In Christ Jesus our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Love of God the Father, the grace of his only begotten Son, our Lord God and Savior Jesus Christ, the communion and gift of the Holy Spirit be with you all. Go in peace, and the peace of the Lord be with you.
change because they found a lot of kids behind, coming to the college behind. So they want them to promote them. So because of their teaching value. So a lot of them are talking about this. So he doesn't take it, but I still challenge you to look at read, do good in math because those are good tests. Tell him I told you. Yeah, email me. I mean, yeah. Yeah. I remember you was here last week. Yeah, so that organization has a scholarship. The kid gets to choose what university and goes to the university he has to go to. He would be eligible for the scholarship. He doesn't guarantee he's going to get it, but he's eligible. And I know the scholarship is not a lot of people apply, so they have a high chance. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I don't know who is first.
I thought I was going to be this.
Yeah. I just Yeah, you learned a lot. Yeah, that's fine. Always be an advocate. It's like today, when you learn more, when you have more knowledge, then you can, approach things differently.